Hey, we want to get your take on this Seahawks team, which, the Lions loss, we kind of, oddly enough, came out of that feeling pretty decent because they were so shorthanded. They were without 5 starters on defense, lost another one during the game, so you're down 6 starters. Offense played really well. Lions are a very good team, so you kind of came out of it going, all right, we get it. There are reasons for what happened there. Then they play the Giants, who come in 1-3, and they're without their 2 best producers on offense, and Malik Neighbors and the running back from Singletary. Is that his name? Yeah. Yes. Without both, and they weren't good with those guys. They scored the fewest number of points in their division with those guys, so they're without them on the road, and they just light the Seahawks up. They do whatever they want offensively, defensively. I mean, the Seahawks just didn't play well anywhere. And we're all sitting here going, all right, was the 3-0 start fool's gold? Was that based on the opponents and this is who they are, or was it just a bad? How do you sum up what we saw in that game?
Yeah, well, I would tell you, it's funny. I've been sitting here on television and people telling how bad the Giants are, and I'm like, well, I did them week 2. I had them, and I'm like, they impressed me. They're a hell of a lot better than people think, and they've gone back to doing what Daniel Jones does well in that, like, let's get him outside the pocket. Let's give him the run pass option, throw, run. Let's give him the zone read stuff where Daniel Jones can, fake it or hand it to the back or fake it, take off. And, like, he's a good running quarterback. And, like, they have addressed their offensive line issues that they've had the last couple of years, and they've addressed some of their defensive issues as well. And so I kept looking at them going, man, they're a lot better football team than people think. And when they played the Cowboys 2 weeks ago on a Thursday night, we were sitting here on television, and, one of my television buddies was like, oh, yeah, the Dallas will beat them by 3 touchdowns. I'm like, this is going to be a tight game, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants win it. Like, they're so much better than they used to be and so much better than you think. So, like, I would look at that loss and say, Seattle probably there's an element of overlooking your opponent to a degree because they are with their record. In their record, they're 1-3. But I think they're a little bit more shocking, especially physicality-wise, than people give them credit for. And then, like, if Daniel Jones is playing, like, well and operating, not turning the ball over, which he's been doing well, they're a lot tougher out than people think. So, I would look at that Lions game and then this game, and I would just say, man, this one got them a little bit, but I think the opponent you played is a lot better at the end of the day than people are giving them credit for.
Hey, Mark, one of the things I'm always impressed by is when you get a coach or a special team coach that finds a crack, finds some way to gain an advantage. And if you saw all the details and the slow-mo of the field goal block of, pushing down. I'm assuming you're against it because it's offensive guard. It's like, I'm sure you think that's cheating in some way, but what did you think about that, though? I mean, I thought it was interesting because the Giants had been victimized by that same play.
Yeah, I played on that PAT field goal and PAT. I did that my whole career. Yeah. And it's one of those things, like, you score and the excitement of scoring, and then you go like, oh God, here we go. Got to stick and just give myself up. So the special team stuff probably doesn't get the credit. We don't talk about it enough. We don't look at it enough because it's not sexy enough, and it's not the players that we've memorized, and we don't get the fantasy points that we like. But I actually enjoy watching some of that stuff, and this whole kickoff rule has been interesting to see kind of how teams implement it, when they let the teams return them, when they don't. I will tell you this, like, red zone issues, and I was thinking about this today, and you probably won't have never heard this anywhere else, so I'll just throw it at you because I made it up today. But I was thinking about when we used to take the ball out of the 20. So when you'd kick off and we'd get a touchback and we had to start the drives in our time, Dave, at the 20, like, your playbook shrinks probably 30-40% when you come off the 20 as opposed to the 30. Just that extra 10 yards it opens up what you can run, and all of a sudden you're not so afraid of, hey, man, if we give up a sack on the 20 and we're all of a sudden punting from inside, at our goal line, you're almost automatically giving up 3 points. So you get really conservative on what you call coming off the 20. So off the 20 back in the day, a lot more run, a lot more heavy personnel, a lot more base personnel stuff, short, tight play action stuff off of there. But you're not dropping back. You're not really airing things out, right? Yeah. And I started thinking, it's interesting because probably red zone issues have been exasperated by a lack of coming off the 20, like the unintended consequences of the kickoff rule. So now all of a sudden we get into the red zone, and all that stuff we used to have to run coming off the 20, all that kind of grinded out, tough, hard-nosed run game, like that's the stuff now that you don't see coming off the 20, and therefore it probably hinders you going into the red zone because you're not running it as much. You're not relying on that as much. And that's a part of the offense that's pretty much the same coming off the 20 as it is going in from the 20. So it could be hurting some red zone offenses as well. Just the unintended consequences of stupid rule changes is what I'm saying. The long story short of just basically saying the NFL is dumb and we're smart, and let's keep this to ourselves. Let's not discuss this with anybody out there. Just keep it to ourselves, and hold that information.
Well, and speaking of that and things that piss me off as far as the NFL goes, and I asked Bob and Mike, I'm like, did I talk about this yesterday? Because I've talked about this, I think, to almost everybody, except for you, Mark. But I don't know if you saw the Zach Charbonnet fine for throwing one of the best blocks I've ever seen. It was $45,000. And, and I don't know if they thought it was helmet to helmet or what, but it made me think of you because the kind of people that come up with those fines hate football, right? They hate football. And so, and then also what was equally annoying to me, and I don't know if it's just by chance, but I saw a ridiculous number of flag football commercials on the NFL network. And I'm like, that's what they're trying, and flag football's fine. But like you say, it's not everybody will willingly go headlong into a car crash.
This is the farce that they try to pull over our eyes. The guys who fine are former players, which really irritates me, right?
Yeah,
that former players are the ones implementing fines. But the reason they're implementing a $45,000 fine for a football play, which is just mind-boggling to me, is because they're trying to appease people that do hate our game. And like I told Roger Goodell when I just bumped into him on the sideline of a game I was calling, quit trying to satisfy or appease people that hate our game. Screw them. I'm not trying to convert. I'm not trying to convert people who hate our game into loving our game. Let them hate it. We don't need them. Well, our game is so freaking popular. Why are we trying to make people who hate our game and are anti our game and rally against it and talk about all the negative stuff? I mean, our game has created more millionaires, for kids who weren't didn't have any other skill sets. Myself included, I look at what the NFL brought to me as a player, and obviously you pay a price and you do all those things and you beat yourself up and you do all that stuff. But I really didn't have any other skill set, and now I've worked an entire lifetime in a passion, something I'm passionate about. My dad told me when I was a little boy, find something you love to do. You'll never have to go to work. I'm 58 years old. I don't feel like I've worked a day in my life. I have just lived this unbelievable, passionate life, and it's due to the NFL, and now I get to talk about it all the time. And it drives me crazy that there are people out there that are like, yeah, but you know what? I couldn't play, or I think it's too violent, or my kid can't play, and so let me hate on it. And I just am like, screw those people. You quit complaining about our game. Go find something else to do. It just bothers me.
Yeah, and oddly enough, I don't think there was a flag thrown on that play. So that was something that came after the fact, after the game, which is weird. But hey, Mark, I want to bring you to the Seahawks O-line because it's been very problematic this year. And I was asking Dave, hey, do you think it's What do you think it is? Why is it a problem? Is it lack of talent? Is it scheme? Is it guys aren't in shape that want to? I don't, just trying to identify why they are struggling. And I went back and looked at their draft from 2015 all the way up to this year, and they at least one offensive lineman has taken every single draft. At least one. Some there have been two. Some there have been three. They've spent first round picks, second round picks, third round, fourth, all the way down to the sixth, and very few of these guys are still on the team. So does that speak to the development of O-linemen at the college level and they're just not making that transition, or is it just misidentifying talent, or I don't know, how do you explain the sort of consistent struggles they've had at that spot just across the line?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of reasons. Probably all those things combined, Bob, are the reasons. But it comes down to how difficult the position is in general, and how poorly, I think, in a lot of situations it's coached. And so any position in football really is required. Like, what makes you a good player more than anything else is understanding the nuance of how to get things done. And, I always used to think for myself on any given play, like, where can I not get beat? Like, what will cost us a negative play? Like, where can I not get beat? Where is my potential help? Like, what are the pitfalls of this particular play, this particular protection? What techniques do I need to use? And so there are all these nuanced aspects of playing that position. And now it's not only my nuance and the things that I have to do, but it's all five of us having to be tied together and to be able to execute that particular play call together, and to be able to see the same things and be on the same page and do it in crowd noise. And then it comes down a lot to your play caller. You put us in a position where we're athletically challenged, and you don't let us, like I always talk to coordinators about taking the passive out of pass protection and how you can help me be the aggressor. And you don't put us in those positions. Like I always say, put a guy in a position to fail. Don't be surprised when he fails, because you're the dumbass that put him there. And so that position is so difficult, and it's so intricate, and it's so tied together. And again, I always say it, we're the worst collectively, we're the worst athletes on the football team. And you know what? And we're expected to win 100% of our battle. Like, if I give up one sack in a game, like, I could kick your ass 65 plays in the world. I give up one sack and I had a bad game, and you go to the Pro Bowl. Like, it makes no sense. And I always tell people this too, is like, name one other sport where unlike athletes match up, right? I mean, the offensive line athletically, we don't match up to the defensive linemen, especially the edge guys that turn the corner and run a 4.38. We just don't match up. And yet we're expected as the worst athlete to win 100% of the battles. And if we don't, like, we're garbage.
Right.
Like, you don't, if a point guard gets switched up on a center and blows by the center and lays it up, you don't go, get that center out of here. He's horrible. You're like, hey, man, they got a good switch on us. Like, and so that's an offensive coordinator's job. So I think one of the biggest things about football, and the best coaches that I sit down and meet with and I talk to, really understand other people's issues. Great play callers understand how difficult playing offensive line is and the issues that they have. And they don't say, hey, we just got to, I'm going to call this play because I love the matchup, and we're just going to have to hold up. Like, that's stupid. We're just going to have to hold up. You hold up. Like, give us some tools to hold up. Don't just tell me, we're just going to have to hold up on this one because we're going to chuck this one deep because we got a great matchup. It's not how it works, but unfortunately, a lot of play callers don't really understand that position and the intricacies and the difficulties. And I walk through practices, man. I watch O-line coaches coach and stuff that I have to walk away. I'm like, well, on a grease board that may sound good, but what they're coaching, they're just coaching guys to lose, because that's awful, and I see it every week.
That's you match up.
It's
you hold
institutional. The offensive line, yeah. I feel like they don't get developed, and
yeah.
Kids are out learning how to make a one-handed catch.
That's right.
Instead of
that's right.
Right, yeah, because that's important. Like, hey man, I could throw you a football and you could throw it back and catch it. Like, if we line up and do one-on-ones, I'm going to whip your ass. Like, there's a skill involved in that I have and that you don't. And so, I mean, I don't know. It just is. It's mind-boggling to me. Just because you coach in the NFL doesn't make you a good coach. There's a lot of really bad coaches in this league.
Mark, you're the best, man. We always appreciate the conversation. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll do it again next week.
Sounds good, guys. Do well.
Thanks, buddy.
There you go. Mark Schlereth, everybody. Never disappoints.